Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice in this special how to play video of our game, Bark Avenue, published in collaboration with Good Games Publishing. Bark Avenue is a competitive dog walking game based on our experience in New York City and my experience as a New York City dog walker. We designed this game in hopes of bringing seasoned players and new players to the same table and having a great time.
The game takes place in Upper West Side and Upper East Side of Manhattan, where dogs are in high demand and it's sure to keep you on your toes. Now you may not know, but Bark Avenue originally took flight on Kickstarter, where backers and their dogs helped this game become a reality. In addition, through the foster dog mechanic, you'll walk real-life foster dogs from centers right here in New York City. We hope you enjoy your first game of Bark Avenue.
Ready to play? Lace up your shoes and meet us there.
Alrighty, well you are stuck with me for the rest of the video as I'm about to show you how to play Bark Avenue. We're gonna start ahead with setup. First up, you're gonna take the main game board and you're gonna unfold it in the center of the table. You're then gonna take this little sun tracker token and you're gonna place this on the first base of the daylight track over on the right side of the game board. Next, you're gonna take the tips, coffee, and treats and place them into piles anywhere nearby the board where you have space. Next, you're gonna take the dog deck and you're going to shuffle it before placing it in the top left hand of the board. Now, if this is a two-player game, this is the one step where you're gonna make a change. So you're gonna take a look at the dog cards, and in the bottom left or the bottom right of a card, you'll see their street sign. It's gonna either be pointing to the left or to the right. That means it's a west side dog or an east side dog. For two-player games, you're gonna play in one neighborhood, so pick all the west side or all the east side and place those in a pile in the top left of the board. Place the city and park die near the board. Next, you're gonna shuffle the event cards and put them to the right of the city board. Next, you'll take the personal goal cards and you'll also shuffle those and place those near the event cards. The last thing you're gonna do for general setup is deal out 2 dog cards and 2 personal goal cards face down to each player. Now you're ready to move on to the player setup. Each of the players will take one of the 5 walker boards and look at the color and take the matching meeple and 5 review star tokens. Each player will also take 3 each of the walk tracker tokens, the happy dog tails, the photo tokens, and the poop tokens. Next, each player will take the 5 review stars in their color and cover the star bonuses on the right side of their walker board. They'll also place their first walk tracker token on the first base of the first slot of their board. We'll get to describing these a little later in the rulebook, but for the sake of this example, I'm going to pick one of my dogs and one of my hidden goals face down, and I'm going to put the other 2 at the bottom of their respective decks. Lastly, each player will take their dog walking meeple and they'll place it in one of the 4 spaces in their dog's neighborhood. My dog lives at 96 in Amsterdam, so I'll place them here. Now once all players have completed the player setup, we can draw out available dog cards into the market and begin the game. Now there will either be 4, 5, or 6 cards depending on the number of players that are playing this game. Today we have 3 players in this example, so I will draw out 5 cards and not use the last space, which requires a 4 or 5 player game. The first player of the game is going to be the player who most recently walked a dog. Now, in Bark Avenue, you are competitive dog walkers trying to walk dogs to make the most money. Now, if you've ever seen those pictures or even been to New York and seen those dog walkers who are walking around with 4, 5, 6 dogs, that is you. That is the name of the game. You're gonna want to walk more than one dog, balancing their competing needs, and you're gonna try to get the best reviews, getting them home on time, making sure that they did their favorite activities, making sure they pooped and you took favorite pictures. Those are all things that are going to help you win this game. But it is a game of balance. You can't always do everything those dogs want. So you're going to want to make sure that you're balancing that with how much time you have and the opportunities you have on the board to walk more dogs. Now before we dive into all the rules, I just want to show you one example turn so you get an idea for what the game plays like, because every turn is pretty similar, and once you get the hang of it, you'll have this game down in no time. Now the first thing you do on your turn is you roll the die. So I'm in the city, so I roll the city die. Poop! This is the only game where a crappy roll is a good thing. I'm gonna take this poop token and I'm gonna put it on that little green bag to mark that my dog has pooped. I now am going to move according to the speed of my slowest dog, which is 5. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I will perform one action in the neighborhood that I ended up in. So I'm going to choose to play fetch, which is my dog's favorite activity. So I place the happy dog tail on the favorite action spot. Now I will track how long I walked my dog by sliding it to the 2. When this reaches the 4, that dog will be ready to return home. And that's one turn of Bark Avenue. So let's break it down. Now, let's talk about the most important part of this game, that is the dog cards. This game's all about walking dogs, so let's talk about what they like. So every dog has a number of different attributes that represent that dog, most of them up on the dog tag at the top of the card. So you have the dog's name and their breed, but you also have their size. So some dogs are small dogs, that means they have that small dog symbol filled in. Some dogs are medium, some dogs are large. Some dogs have compatibility restraints with their size. So you might have a big dog who doesn't like small dogs, or a small dog who doesn't like big dogs. So you'll have to deal with those restrictions when you're choosing which dogs you're going to walk at one time. As for the other 4 attributes around the corners of the dog tag, in the top left we have the speed. That is the maximum number of spaces you can move while walking this dog. In the bottom left of the dog tag, you have the number of rounds that dog needs to be walked, roughly. In the top right of the dog tag, you also have their favorite activity. So this will either be fetch, splash, or sniff, which will match locations around the board. In the bottom right hand of the dog tag, you have whether the dog is a group dog or a solo dog. If you see 3 dogs together, it means they can be walked with other dogs on your board. If you see a single dog in a solid circle, that means they're a solo dog and must be walked alone. Now, the bottom of the dog tag gives you 2 more attributes. It gives you their location and the amount of money you're going to get paid for this walk. If the location is on the left side of the card, pointing to the left, it means it's a west side dog. You'll find it in the upper west side, which is the left side of the board. If it's on the right side of the card with a sign pointing to the right, it means it is an east side dog. You'll find it on the right side of the board. Each neighborhood matches 4 spaces on the board, in any of which you can pick up and drop off that dog. The points noted in the money in the bottom corner of the dog card is how many points you'll earn at the end of the game if you've completed that walk. Now, some dogs might have a pink star instead of a dollar value. That is because those are foster dogs, and we'll talk more about those later in this video. Now let's take a look at the boards in this game. You have the city board, the main game board in the center of the table. This represents Upper Manhattan in New York City. You have Upper West Side and Upper East Side, with Central Park in the middle. There's also 2 parks on both sides, the Carl Schurz and Riverside Park. Each circular space on the board is a space that you can move to. Some of them have trees in them and represent park spaces, while most of them represent city spaces, which will be in quadrants of 4 surrounding a street sign. Those street signs are neighborhoods in which you can pick up and drop off dogs and perform the actions in the little white box. At the top of the board, you'll see the available dogs. These are the dogs that you can pick up by going to their neighborhood and doing the pickup action. On the right side of the board, you'll see the daylight track. This has a sun tracker token that is going to move down at the end of every round. On the left side of the board, you'll see where the review stars are placed when you gain great reviews for dropping off dogs. Lastly, let's take a look at the walker boards. Each player has a walker board that allows them to walk up to 3 dogs. At the start of the game, you'll only be able to walk 2, as the 3rd slot is locked until you've unlocked your 3rd star. Now, under each dog are all the places that you can track the things that you've accomplished on your walk. Whether they've pooped, whether they took a picture, or whether they did their favorite activity. Underneath that is where you'll track how long you've walked the dog by sliding the walk tracker token at the end of each turn. On the right side of the board are 5 abilities that will be unlocked by gaining great reviews at the end of your walks. Now, should you ever start a turn where you're not walking dogs, there's a reminder in the top left of the board on how your movement works. Now, let's take the opportunity to break down the 4 steps of a player's turn, which are roll, move, take actions, and track how long you've walked your dogs. Now, starting with the roll phase, depending on whether you start your turn in a city or a park space, whether it's a colored space or a space with a tree in it, you're going to roll either the white city die or the green park die. The faces on these dice are mostly similar, but there's a few differences, so let's take a look. Firstly, both dies have a run side. It's a sneaker with a +1 in it. This means you'll have 1 additional movement that you must take this turn. Next, the city die has a P side, which means no effect. You just continue on with your turn. Next on both dice is the poop side. This means that you take one of your poop tracker tokens and you put it on the green bag on your player board. This means that your dog has pooped, which is one of the 3 things that qualifies you for tips at the end of a walk. Now, the park die is loaded, which means it has a lot more poop on it. You might even get lucky and roll the golden nugget, which means all of your dogs simultaneously poop. And finally, both dice feature a side with an arrow on it that features either a pigeon or a squirrel. Now don't move it, because whichever direction that dice is facing, your first movement must be in that direction. If players are unsure which direction it's facing, let them vote and determine which direction the die is facing. If it's facing towards a wall, use the second most cardinal direction. All right, and with that, we're moving on to move. So on your move stage of your turn, you're going to move on the board exactly as many spaces as the slowest dog you're currently walking. So my slowest dog is my only dog, Shadow, who is a 5. That means that I must walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces on my turn. No more, no less. I have to do my job as a dog walker. If I were to have multiple dogs, in this case I have Shadow who's a 5 and Grover who is a 4, that means my movement speed is 4. If I'm currently not walking any dogs, I instead will move up to 4 spaces, and I don't have to move all of those spaces because I'm not currently walking dogs. Additionally, there's a reminder on your board that you can take the train. Certain spaces on the city board have train stations on them. That means you can move from one train station to another train station space as if they are adjacent. Now, after you've rolled and you've moved, you'll take your actions. At the beginning of the game, you can only take one action, and that's either going to be to pick up, drop off, or take any of the local actions in the neighborhood where you ended your movement. Now, there's a lot of different actions that you can take, but you're only going to take one action every turn. And that first turn, it's probably going to be to pick up, because you're going to want to make sure that you're walking multiple dogs at once whenever possible. So, to pick up a dog, you're going to look at the available dog market at the top of the board. You're going to look at which neighborhoods those dogs are in. If you ended your movement in that neighborhood, you can pick up a dog from that neighborhood. So for instance, if I ended my movement at 72nd and Amsterdam, I could pick up Hula, who lives at 72nd and Amsterdam. Now I know this because of the street sign at the bottom that says 72nd and Amsterdam. It's pointing to the left. I know that's this colored neighborhood on the left side of the board. I'll place that in my second slot on my walker board. Now, to do that, I knew that these dogs were compatible, but I had to check whether those dogs had any compatibility constraints that would have prevented them from being walked together. For instance, Frankie is a big dog who doesn't like small dogs. I couldn't have picked up Gremlin because Gremlin is a small dog who is a solo dog. They don't want to walk with anybody. That's because they have that gold dog tag with the circle around the single dog in the bottom right-hand corner of their bone. And now that I've just picked up a dog and left a hole in the market, according to the arrows here, I'm going to slide these dogs to the right and into the leftmost space, fill a new dog from the dog card deck. And that's the pickup action. Next, let's talk about a couple of the neighborhood actions. Now, most of the actions that you're going to take on your turn are to try to improve and have better walks. So when you do their favorite activities or you take a photo of them, you're going to place tokens on your board to track that you've done those things for those dogs. When you drop off those dogs, you're going to be getting tips, one each for each of those actions that you took for those dogs. So first of those actions is the favorite activity. So you'll see fetch, splash, and sniff. That's the tennis ball, that's the water droplet, and the fire hydrant. Those actions are all over the board, and they're also in the top right of each dog card. That's their favorite activity. So I know that Shadow likes to play fetch because they have the tennis ball there. So if I go to a neighborhood which has fetch, as my action, I can choose to play fetch. And when I do that, I take the happy dog tail and I place it on the heart-shaped space for their favorite activity on the right side of that dog. And great, that means I'm getting a tip for that at the end of that walk. It's important to know that if I have multiple dogs who like the same favorite activity, they're all going to get that when I perform that action. So if I have Shadow and Thumbelina, who both like to play fetch, when I take the fetch action, they'll both get the happy dog tail on the favorite activity spot. Next up is the take photo action. So there are some places on the board that are more picturesque than others, and dog owners love to get pictures of their dogs. Go to a space that has a camera and take a photo of a dog. That means you take one of these woof photo tokens and you place it over the camera in the center space of that dog. Now it's important to know that unlike favorite activities, when you take a picture, you're only taking it of one dog because the owners only want to see their dog in the photo. Now that's the basic actions. You're only going to take one of those actions, pick up, favorite activity, or photo on your first turn. So there are a couple of other actions, but I'd like to do all of those actions in a separate section after we've talked about a full loop of a turn. So we're going to move on for now to track. Now the fourth phase of your turn is to track your walks. Most of the time you're just going to be sliding the token at the bottom of the track one space. So Shadow has a paw token on the first space at the start of the game. That means at the end of my first turn, I'm going to slide that paw token one space to the right, and I'm now on my second turn with Shadow. Now Hula, I just picked up this turn, so the space is empty. I'll take a new paw tracker token and I'll put it on the first space to indicate I'm now on my first round with Hula. Now, for Shadow to be eligible to drop off, I have to walk him 4 rounds, or 4 paws on the walk tracker. And I know that because of the 4 in the paw in the bottom left of the dog tag on Shadow's card. So at the end of my next turn, I'll slide those paws one to the right. At the end of my next turn, I'll slide those paws one to the right, and Shadow will be on the 4. When I reach the number that matches the number on the card, I immediately flip that paw token over. It's now showing a house. While paws slide right, houses will slide left. This dog is now ready to drop off. This means I could go back to 96 in Amsterdam, where Shadow lives, and as my action, I could choose to drop off Shadow. But this is where it's really important to know that you do not have to drop off this dog this round. It just means they're now able to be dropped off. So if I choose to not drop off Shadow this round, my turn will continue as normal, and when I go to track, the house will slide left to the 3. This sliding house token is a countdown. It's telling me that I have 4 rounds left during which I can drop off this dog. If I don't do it by the time the house token is ending my turn on the first space and would be sliding off of my board, it means the dog is late. When the dog is late and you slide that token to the left off of their walk track, you're going to place the house token on the dog card to remind you that the dog is late. The late penalty comes into play when you are dropping off a dog. And that is how you track a turn. So we've just finished our first turn of the game, and once each player has also finished their first turn, we're going to mark the end of the round by sliding the Sun Tracker token down to the second space on the daylight track. Now most rounds have, on these alternating rounds, either an event icon or a competition icon. So let's talk about those briefly. When you see an event icon, you're going to draw the top card from the event deck, and you're going to place that card in the bottom right space on the board as the active event. The event card that I've drawn is lawn closed. What this means is, instead of getting to roll the park die with those bonus poops on it, I have to roll the city die when I am in the park. I won't explain all of the event cards, but a reference can be found in the back of the rulebook that describes them in more detail than the rules on the cards. What I will tell you is that there are 2 kinds of event cards. One is a round event. If it has a blue border and it has a round symbol, it means that it is active until it's replaced by the next event card in 2 full rounds. If it has an instant event symbol, which is an orange banner with an exclamation point, it means that it happens immediately, you immediately resolve it, and then you don't do anything with that event card again. Some event cards will say, if this is the first event, discard it and draw a new event card. That means you'll just replace it with the next event card from the deck. Additionally, if you're playing a 2-player game, some cards will have a 3+ player symbol in the bottom right-hand corner of the card. That means you ignore it similarly and we'll draw a new event card. Now, once we've completed our second round and we've all gone around, the sun will move down again and we have our first competition round. It shows 2 dogs with a cycling symbol on it, and what it means is that 2 dogs are taken by the competition. You'll take the 2 rightmost dogs and you'll place them face down in the discard pile on the right-hand side of the available dog track. You'll then slide all the remaining dog cards down and you'll fill in the 2 leftmost spaces with 2 new dogs from the dog deck. Now you gotta watch out for that competition because you are not the only dog walkers in New York City. So this will keep the market fresh as other dog walkers are out there taking those dogs from you. Now you notice towards the bottom of the track, there is a dog with an X in it and then an event card with an X in it. What it means is that on the 3rd to last round, we're going to remove all of the dogs from the market and we're going to place all of them in the discard pile. The sun has wound down for the day and there are no more dogs to walk. The round after that, we will discard the active event card if it is an ongoing event so that there are no more events in play for the last 2 rounds of the game. You'll also notice that there's 2 special events that happen midway through and at the end of the game. We'll talk about those right after we talk about the advanced actions, which we'll talk about now. Now let's talk about those advanced actions that I mentioned that you won't be doing on your first turn. The first of those is drop off. So at the end of my 4th turn, Shadow has flipped to the house side on his walk tracker. It means that he's ready to return home. So during my move, I've returned to 96 in Amsterdam, which is the neighborhood that Shadow lives in. So to drop off Shadow, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take Shadow off of my board and put him to the right. I've now earned that $12 on that card. In addition to that, I'll take a look at any of the 3 special activities that you did with that dog. If they've pooped, they've taken their picture, or they've done their favorite activity. For each of those things, I'm going to get a tip token. So since I did all 3 of those, I can actually take one of these triple tips. So tips are worth $2 each at the end of the game, which means I've earned an additional $6. That means for Shadow's Walk, between the $12 and the $6, I've made $18 for this walk. The last thing that you're going to do is you're going to see if you're eligible for a great review. Every time you drop off a dog, you may achieve one of these reviews. So I took a poop, took a picture, and I did their favorite activity. Those are the 3 things that they need. So for that, there's actually a star that I can get, the perfect walk star, which means I pooped, took a picture, and did my favorite activity. So I'll take the first star from the bottom of my player board and I'll put it on the perfect walk space, unlocking my first star ability. Now, it's important to note that you may be eligible for multiple reviews when you are dropping off a dog. However, you can only ever achieve one, so pick the hardest one that you achieved with that walk. Now, if you're dropping off a dog who is running late, that means that the house token has slid off the walk track and is on the dog card. At that point, when you drop off the dog, you're still going to earn the money on the dog card, and you can set that dog card aside. However, you will not earn any of the tips for the 3 activities that you've done for that dog, and you will not be able to gain a review star for that walk. It's important to note that for future stars, when you're dropping off dogs, this dog still counts towards that set, so towards expert or well-rounded. You can still count this dog when you earn reviews for future walks. Your ultimate goal, besides winning, should be to never return a dog late. It matters a lot more that you got the dog home than that you did every single thing that that dog wants to do. Now that we've explained drop-off, I'm going to explain the reviews that you can achieve and what the star bonuses are that you get for your remaining 4 stars on your board. So remember, you can only achieve 1 review each turn, but here are a couple of the reviews that you can get. At the top, we have the AnyWalk space. This is a freebie. That means whenever you drop off a dog, you could choose to achieve that star just for dropping off a dog. The second space is called Well-Rounded, and it means that you've walked a small, a medium, and a large dog over the course of the game. Those dogs could have already been walked earlier, but as long as you've achieved a small, a medium, and a large, you will be eligible for that star on your turn. Next up, we have the Foster Dog Star. This is a very special star. You'll notice that some of the dogs are pink tag dogs who have a star instead of a dollar value that you earn when you drop off those dogs. What that means is, when you drop off this foster dog, you'll achieve a star as normal, any of the other stars on the board. In addition to that, you'll achieve a foster dog star. That means with 1 drop off, you've achieved 2 great review stars. This is the only way to get 2 reviews on 1 drop off. Next down the line is Perfect Walk, which we talked about means poop, picture, and favorite activity when you drop off that dog. Next up is 3 dogs. You'll get the star if you're currently walking 3 dogs and you drop 1 off. Next up is Expert. It means that over the course of the game, you've walked 3 dogs of the same size. So I have 3 large, or 3 medium, or 3 small that I've walked over the course of the game. Next, you'll notice that there's 2 spaces for solo dogs. This means just for walking one of these gold tag solo dogs by themselves, you're going to achieve this star. Solo dogs are a great way to achieve a lot of stars early in the game. Now, it must be noted that if you gave a solo dog a treat to ignore their compatibility constraints, you're no longer eligible for the solo walk star. However, you are eligible for the treat training star, which means that you gave a treat to a dog who needed negative attributes to be treated, and you dropped off that dog. Lastly, we have the local star, which means you walk 2 dogs from the same neighborhood, or in a 1 or 2 player game, you walked 3 dogs from the same neighborhood over the course of the game. Now, my first star ability that I've unlocked is Dog Park, which is the next advanced action that you can take. You'll notice that in many of the park spaces, there is a star action, which has a little frisbee in it. That is the Dog Park action. To take that action, you end your turn in a park space with a frisbee with a Dog Park action, and you take that action. When you take the dog park action, you slide all your walk tracker tokens one space, and this is because you're burning extra energy in the dog park. You must slide all tokens when you do this, even if it means you're sliding your house tokens backwards on your countdown. This is a great place to go if you have a ton of dogs who just need to burn a ton of turns and you need to get them home sooner. So now I've earned tips and I have this loose money sitting around, so I have two options. I can either keep this till the end of the game where I will score points, or I can spend them for these next two actions. You'll notice on the board that there are both treat shops and coffee shops, noted by the treat token and the coffee token icons on the board. To take those actions, you go to those spaces, and as your action, you will buy things from the shop. The chart in the top right-hand corner of the board explains how those charts work, but in basics, you can spend 1 tip to receive a coffee token, or 1 tip each to receive as many treat tokens as you want. So let's talk about what each of those tokens do. Remember how I said earlier that you can only take 1 action at the end of your turn? Well, if you have coffee, that can give you bonus actions by spending that coffee. The first time you spend a coffee, you're going to flip it over to the reverse side, where you'll see a half-filled coffee cup. That means that you've used one of those sides of your coffee and you've gotten 1 bonus action. You can only use coffee once per turn. On a future turn, to take an additional bonus action, so you can take multiple actions on your turn, you will discard that coffee cup. That is your second use, and you get a second bonus action on your turn. Treats are an extremely useful tool to keep around because they ignore negative attributes about your dogs. So Toby here is a small dog who doesn't like big dogs. That means I normally wouldn't be allowed to walk Toby with Shadow. However, if when I pick up Toby, I give Toby a treat by placing a treat on Toby's card, it means I ignore anything negative about that dog's compatibility or speed. So that means Toby not only is okay with big dogs now, but I also ignore the fact that Toby can only move 3 spaces, and I instead will refer to Shadow, who can move 5 spaces. So in short, that treat helped me ignore that Toby doesn't like big dogs, and it helps me ignore their speed when I'm determining my speed. It's important to note that if I have multiple dogs with compatibility restrictions, say a big dog who doesn't like small dogs and a small dog who doesn't like big dogs, I would have to use a treat on each of them to ignore those compatibility constraints. Importantly, you can also use treats to ignore compatibility constraints of solo dogs, allowing you to walk a solo dog with other dogs. Now that we've talked about the reviews that you can gain, let's talk about the bonuses that you get for taking those reviews. We've already talked about the first review, which is Dog Park. The second star will give you a free coffee or treat, which you can choose which one that you want, and you would take it right now as a bonus. The third star unlocks your third slot, allowing you to walk 3 dogs at once. The fourth star is a huge momentum star. It means that you get a bonus action that you can take every turn. This means you can take at most 3 actions on your turn. 1 base action, 1 bonus action for having your 4th star, and 1 bonus action for drinking coffee. The 5th star is a $10 bonus, which you will earn at the end of the game. Now that we've talked about the advanced actions, let's return to the 2 bonus phases that are written on the right side of the daylight track. First is the lunch surge pricing. So we have 4 rounds during which there is a dog symbol with $2 underneath it. What this means is that at all times, there should be 1 tip token on each of the available dogs in the dog market. When you pick up those dogs, you're going to add them to your board as normal. However, you're going to leave that tip token on that dog. When you drop off the dog, you will earn those tip tokens. When a new dog is slid into the market, it immediately gets a tip token as well. Those tips will remain in place until we exit the surge pricing rounds, at which point all tips will be removed from the dogs in the dog market. Now, once all of the dogs have gone away in the last 3 rounds of the game, you may be finding yourself in a situation where I don't have any more dogs on my board. I've dropped off all of my dogs. There is 1 new action available to you that you can take in those 3 remaining rounds. If you are in the actions phase of your turn and you have no dogs on your board, you can take the advertise action, which means at a coffee shop location, take one of the stars that you've earned previously on the review track and cover the coffee shop at that location. It means no one else can pin up their reviews at that location, but you've taken that review and you've stapled it onto their corkboard. According to the chart in the top right hand of the board, for each of your stars that are placed this way, you'll earn $4 at the end of the game. On the last round, the sun will move down to the final space of the daylight track, and all players will take one final turn on that last space, at which point players will begin with the final scoring. First of all, you're going to look at the bottom corner of your dog cards and you're going to add up the dollar value on each dog card. You've earned that money as your base score. Next, you'll add to your base score all of your tips, which you've earned during the game. Remember that triple tips count as $6 and single tips count as $2. Next, each player will reveal their personal goal cards and score those up. Those cards are listed in the rulebook and described, but to give you an example, on your toes means that I receive $10 for every set of cards that have a 3, a 4, and a 5 speed. Since I have 2 3s, 2 4s, and 2 5s, I receive $20 for this hidden goal. Next, if a player has achieved their 5th star, you'll get a $10 bonus. And lastly, for each of the coffee shops that the players have advertised at, they'll gain $4 each. If there's a tie among players who've earned the most money over the course of the game, you'll next check to see which player has earned the most review stars. If those players have earned the same number of review stars, the players will share the victory. Now, I didn't cover in detail the event cards and the hidden goal cards, but those are described in detail in the rulebook, as is the solo mode, which I will leave you to discover on your own. Now, I know I just covered a lot of material, but New York is a big city and you guys totally got this. Just make sure to keep the reference card by your side, as well as the back of the rulebook, which has the round structure. Now, we promise in no time that this will be a walk in the park, and to prove it to you, Mackenzie, the co-designer of this game, is going to come and play the first couple of rounds. We're going to play until our first drop-off, so stay tuned for the playthrough. Thank you for joining me. So we're going to play through a couple of rounds, probably till we drop off our first dog, just to give you an idea of how the game plays. And it starts, I should first mention, this is a 2-player game. So I have split the deck in half to be just the west side dogs, and we're just playing over here on the west side of the board. You can choose either neighborhood when you're playing a 2-player game. And the first player is the player who most recently walked a dog, which is you like 30 minutes ago.
That would be me. All right, so I am going to start with the white die, roll my die because I'm in the city. P. Nothing happens. Okay.
That happens to you a lot.
Yeah. All right. So I have a speed of 4. So I want to pick up a dog. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to pick up Tegan.
Sweet, who's over there in 96 in Amsterdam.
Yep, so I'm going to move my paw to track Freckles that he walked around and place a paw for Tegan. That's
Cool.
my turn.
That's the first round. I will also roll the city die. Poop! Nice, so that goes there on my little poop spot, and Penny's pooped. All right, my speed is 3. I'm slow. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna pick up Norbert from Columbus Circle here. And I'll slide this token, and I'll put this on the 1. And that is my first turn as well. So we completed our first turn. I'll refill that dog real quick. And now we're gonna move down. Oh, it's Emma. That's our dog. Next, I'm going to move the round tracker down because we always, we move that after both of us have gone. So this is an event turn. So I reveal the event and service alleys. This means you may move diagonally between city spaces. So that's a constant effect. It's in play until the 4th round when we replace it with the next event card.
All right,
so it's
my
your
turn again. So I am still in the city. So white die it is. All right, pigeon. Okay.
It's facing that way.
So it's facing that way. So I'm against a wall. So it's going down. We're going down this way. So my first movement has to be in the direction of the arrow. So Tegan is slow. So we are going 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so it's just your first movement that's affected by the pigeon.
I am going to do fetch for Freckles. And I'm going to place a happy dog token on Freckles. Going to slide each of them up to track their walks.
Cool.
That's my turn.
I'm going to roll the city die and P, nothing happens. Okay, I'm going to go into the park so I can roll that wonderful park die. So I'm going to go 1, ooh, wait, which park do I want to go to? Yeah, that's the one. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna take the sniff action, which is both of my dog's favorite activities.
Nice.
So that means both my dogs get the favorite activity marker. And I will slide my tokens, and Penny is now on the home side. That means I can return Penny home on any future turn because I reached the 3, and she's a 3. So sun goes down and competition. 2 dogs go face down to the discard, taken by the competition. And now we reveal 2 more dogs.
Okay.
And it's your turn.
So my dog slots are full because I don't have 3 stars. So I'm going to roll the die. All right, +1 speed, so we are moving 4. So I am going to go take a photo.
Cool.
1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to take a photo and I'm going to do it on Freckles.
Nice.
And I'm going to track their rounds. All right, Freckles has now reached his 4-round
Good job,
requirement.
Freckles.
So that house is going to flip.
All right. I roll the park die because I'm in the park. Pigeon.
Squirrel.
Oh, squirrel. And it's going that way, which means, all right, I'm going to go. I have a long way to go. 1, 2, 3. And I don't have any actions to take, so I'm just going to end my turn there. I will slide my tokens. Woo! I have got to get Penny home. Okay.
All right.
All right, so our next event comes out, and it is Dead Battery. Okay, so if we were to take the take photo action, it would cost $2. So we won't be doing that because we don't have any tips. Okay?
Well, glad I did that last turn. Okay. Okay, so my turn. Poop! That's what I wanted! Yeah! Okay. So I am placing the poop, which now changes what I'm going to do. So I could keep going with Freckles, but I'm going to go do my first drop off.
Cool.
So I'm now back at a speed of 3. So Freckles lives at Weston, so I'm gonna go, speed of 3. 1, 2, 3, and now I can do my first drop off. So now what's gonna happen is I'm going to take Freckles off to the side and keep him off to the side till the end of the game. This point value, well, he's a foster dog, so I don't get any points, but that does qualify me for a chance to get 2 stars. So I'm going to start with getting tips. I achieved all 3 items.
Here's your triple tip.
Thank you, sir. So that's my tips, and now let's see what reviews I got. Well, I got a foster dog star, so that gives me that. And now, since I achieved the foster dog, it's the only time where I can qualify for another star. So I got all 3 requirements or options to get tips. So that makes I can get a perfect walk. So
Awesome.
I'm gonna put right there. All right, and I'm gonna clear my board. And now this has opened up 2 new categories for me. So I have opened up dog park. So now I can visit these spaces around here, which will help me churn through my dogs faster. And I've opened up the second star, which means I either get a free coffee or a free bone. So I'm gonna go with the coffee.
Cool.
So
Go
I'm
for
gonna
it.
take a free coffee.
All right.
And then I'm still gonna move Tegan up. Don't forget to track my other dogs. And that's my turn. That's a drop off.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to roll the park die. Poop! Unsurprisingly, there's lots of poop on that die.
It's loaded.
Yes. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, slowly make my way to 72nd and West End. Woo, I got to get home. Okay, both my dogs are now ready to get home. Okay, that's the end of my turn. So
All right.
we can move this. 2 dogs get taken by the competition. These slide down. 2 more dogs come out, and it is your turn.
Okay, so I have an open slot. So let me roll this die. P, nothing,
As always.
nada. So I don't want a foster dog because once I've had one, I don't really want to get another one. And so I instead, let's head back over here. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and I am going to pick up Pabby.
Way to go. So I will roll the city die. Poop! I don't need it. I got lots of poop. I'm happy. 1, 2, 3. And I will drop off Penny. Okay, so when I drop off Penny, I'm gonna take the Anywalk star because I haven't done anything too fancy yet. But for my poop and my favorite activity, I will gain 2 tips. And that is our first couple rounds of Bark Avenue.
Yeah.
So we're already about a quarter of the way through the game. We play fast, we play this a lot, but hopefully that gives you an idea for what's going on.
Yeah, so pretty simple. Once you understand what's going on, you're only going to have doing a couple things each turn. You're gonna roll, move, actions, track. That's going to be your best friend. And pretty soon it's going to be a walk in a park.
Yeah. So stay tuned on our YouTube channel. If you stick around, we will be doing a full playthrough of this in the future. We're going to do more Q&A. We're going to do probably an interactive learn to play video where you can pause the video as you go to learn the game. Those will be coming later, so keep tuned if you're watching this live when it comes out.
But thank you guys so much. If you do have any specific questions, you can head over to Board Game Geek on the Bark Avenue page where we'll be answering questions as well. Or if you can also ask questions in the comment section. And this is our channel, so we very much frequent the comment section. But thank you guys so much for taking time to check out Bark Avenue. This is truly our baby, and it means the world to us that you guys are playing it. And I hope that you guys truly get a wonderful time out of this game and walk some awesome dogs. But thank you so much, and happy playing!